Welcome to Violin Adventures number 256. This week there was a lot of carving. This is Monday afternoon. We're having our first snow of the season. Here's our beautiful back so that it's ready to turn over and do the inside. But before we do that, we're going to take a break on scraping and move over here to our neck block. This is all squared and ready to go, so I'm going to map out the scroll. It's time for a story. Okay, we continue our reading on the historical background of violins, and this is covering the English. We'll be covering German and Italian violins after that. It's very short, not a very big book. But let's take up where we left off, and we were talking about the viols. This book is quoting a much older book that was written, I think, in the 1600s. So, we'll continue our reading. Talking about the viols, these were old, but we have now very excellent good workmen who, no doubt, can work as well as those, if they be so well paid for their work as they were. Yet we chiefly value old instruments before new, for by experience they are found to be far the best. The reason for which I can no further dive into than to say, I apprehend that by extreme age the wood, and those other adjuncts, glue, parchment, paper, linings of cloth as some use, but above all the varnish. These are all so very much by time dried, linified, made gentle, rarefied, or to say better even, ageified, so that stiffness, stubbornness, or clunginess, which is natural to such bodies, are so debilitated and made pliable, that the pores of the wood have a more and free liberty to move, stir, or secretly vibrate. By which means the air, which is the life of all things both animate and inanimate, has a more free and easy recourse to pass and repass. And whether I have hit upon the right cause I know not, but sure I am that age adds goodness to instruments. Therefore they have the advantage of all our late workmen. Continuing the quote, now suppose you cannot procure an entire chest of viols suitable. That is, then thus, endeavor to pick up here or there so many excellent good odd ones, as near suiting as you can every way, both for shape, wood, color, etc., but especially for size. And to be exact in that, take this certain rule, that is, let your bass be larger. Then your trebles must be just as short again in the string, from bridge to nut, as are your basses, because they should stand 8 notes higher than the basses. Therefore, as short again, for the middle of every string is an eighth, the tenors in the string just so long as from the bridge to the F fret, because they stand a fourth higher. Let this suffice to put you into a complete order for viols. That's the end of the quoting, and now we're reading from the book. We have given the above quotation in extenso without breaking in with any comment, in order that the student may better understand the peculiar phraseology used by this ancient authority. The student will observe that old instruments were equally valued in those days as in these, and this too was at a period anterior to the fame of the great Stradivarius, whose grand period commenced with the opening of the 18th century. There appears to be a general consensus of opinion favoring the theory. Gaspar de Salo, the founder of the Brescian school of violin makers, who probably worked from 1560 to 1610, was the first to make violins in their present shape. Be this as it may, no mention is made of any of his instruments having found their way into this country at this period, nor is he mentioned in any way in connection with the adoption of the violin in this country. The probability is that our own viol and lute makers commenced a school of their own, although nothing definite seems to be known as to who they were. One thing, however, seems certain. The early English violin makers were far behind the Italians in point of workmanship. The English model was large and clumsy, while that of Italy left hardly any room for improvement. Now I'm going to read just a little bit more. The derivation of the word fiddle appears to be wrapped in obscurity and must in no way be taken as the coeval with the term violin. According to Strutt, the antiquary, who wrote a very interesting work last century on the sports and pastimes of the early English, the name of fiddler was applied to the minstrels or itinerant musicians of the 14th century. Chaucer, in his Canterbury Tales, mentions the term in connection with the Clerk of Oxenford. Now here's the poem that the clerk wrote. For him was lever hung at his bed's head, 20 books clothed in black or red, of Aristotle and his philosophy, then robes rich or fiddle or psaltery. And that was all in Old English. So hopefully we got it right. In the vision of Pierce the plowman, we read, quote, not too fair as a fiddler or a friar to seek feast, end of quote. It would appear that as time went on, these wandering minstrels or fiddlers sunk very much in popular estimation and were held in very low esteem, so much so that in the reign of Elizabeth was passed an act entitled, An Act for the Punishment of Rogues, Vagabonds, and Sturdy Beggars, and amongst the malefactors amenable under this act were included wandering minstrels, and in parentheses, other than players of interludes belonging to any baron of the realm, or any other honorable personage of greater degree, if authorized to play under the hand and seal of arms of such baron or personages, end of parentheses, the penalty being such pain and punishment as by this act is in that behalf appointed. We hear of the itinerant musician again in an ordinance from Oliver Cromwell dated 1656 during his protectorship, which prohibited all persons commonly called fiddlers or minstrels from playing, fiddling, and making music in any inn, alehouse, or tavern, and also from proffering themselves, or desiring or entreating anyone to hear them play or make music in the places aforesaid. Well, we should probably stop there. It goes on talking about the fiddler. I hope this is interesting to you, and we'll continue next time. We're back to beautiful days, but as you can see, all the leaves are gone off the trees. Let's take a peek and see what the beavers are up to. Well, here's the creek. It looks like the water is flowing, which is wonderful. And I don't see any dams at this point. There's where an old one was. You can see how the sand built up a bit there. And over here. And here is the other section. The water is flowing. Look at that. So I'm very happy. No beaver activity so far. Freddie wants to chat.
Hi, I'm Freddie, and I just wanted to let you know that I'm talking to Federico in Italy, and we might have some news next week. So hang in there, and we'll bring you some news next week. Okay? We're working on this case, and Federico's doing some investigations, and I'm finding out some stuff too. So I'll talk to you next week. Okay? Bye.
The Hebrew Minute. Rotzeh Hashem et Yeraiv et Ham Yachalim Lachazdo. The Lord takes pleasure or favors those who fear him and those who hope in his mercy, but this also means in his loving kindness, his goodness, and his faithfulness. If you know where this is found, please leave it in the comments below. Well, it's a beautiful afternoon. It's a bit cold, Let's go inside and see what's going on. Here in the shop, we're in the middle of projects. Our scroll escaped out of its encasement. The back, our Appalachian Mountain is mounting, and here we've got one side done. We're starting off on the next side. And here's our scroll. It's just starting to come out of its shell. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for your thumbs up. Thank you to the new subscribers. And thank you for your great comments. And until next time.